This week, KPBS hosted the first televised debate for the 52nd congressional seat. The mostly civil debate centered on health care, illegal immigration, finances, and gas prices. Was there a winner or a loser? We'll hear what our panelists have to say. And the San Diego County Water Authority got everyone's attention this week when it threw out words like shadow government and secret society. It's the newest round in the Water Authority's legal and public relations battle with Southern California's largest water wholesaler over rising water rates. Joining me to talk about the top stories are UT reporter Christopher Cadelago and 10 News managing editor J.W. August. Thank you both for being here. J.W., I want to start off with water. Set us up first. Why is this battle going on? What's the deal between these two agencies?
It's about money. It's about power. It's about water. Water is our lifeblood, and historically it's always been an issue here, and it's heating up.
Now, when we hear words like shadow government, secret society, these were actually words used in emails. Tell us more about that.
Well, the local water is suing MWD up north, and they filed an Open Records Act as part of this, and they've got a bunch of emails, which is on their website now if you want to see what they are, and one of them, which I have here, actually is the one everybody's been talking about because it references a secret society meeting, and also a contract with a company called Cordoba, which is a outside advisor consultant that the other water districts are using and shutting us out of things.
So this is really our local water authority saying to this sort of larger umbrella organization, wait a minute, we think you're charging us too much, and we think you're meeting secretly about this.
Absolutely. And they have pretty good proof with these emails. Things like a 9 a.m. meeting that everybody shows up at. The guys up in L.A. start meeting at 7:30 a.m. They meet for an hour and a half, and then San Diego shows up at 8 o'clock. They don't know what's going on. These guys have already discussed things. That's not right. And then they have all these consultants advising them on the side, and San Diego can't be involved in it. And when the San Diego asks questions, they're told they're stupid. You know, they said that, you know, you guys waste our time. There's a lot of bad blood.
So,
and even though I think the point to make is even though MWD is LA based and we think of LA as just this big monolithic city, there's a lot of smaller member agencies around in all these Southern California counties, and there's also some smaller incorporated cities in LA. And I think what the County Water Authority is saying is that all of these are acting to conspire against San Diego, if not all of them, a good majority of them. And I think it means quite a bit to folks here, because you get that MWD is the one that if it raises its rates, those are then passed down to all the smaller water districts, and you end up paying more for something that I guess is questionable at this point.
I want to talk about sort of these increased rates, but first of all, there is a point of law here too in terms of the Brown Act, right? That in California we have a law that says you cannot meet secretly. These public agencies aren't supposed to do that.
But it's not the public agent, it's not the bosses, it's some of their subordinates. So the argument is, well, are they doing this, the subordinates doing other business, or are they dealing with the business of the public? That's what they're saying up north.
Yes, and I think J.W. was saying it's the locally appointed officials who represent each of the cities. They would definitely be covered by this Brown Act, but would the staff and consultants and some of these other paid folks who then might make a recommendation to these appointed folks who probably aren't as familiar with the ins and outs and might just be carrying their water. No pun intended.
So let's talk a little bit about what it means to the customer then. You mentioned water rates. We've been hearing a lot about increasing water rates lately. So ultimately, does this mean we are paying more for our water here?
We will be. It's 12.5% over the next 2 years. That's what the meeting was about when all of this came about. They were discussing its next boost to San Diego. And the actual lawsuit has to do with the fact that the San Diego feels they're overcharging us and taking that money and giving it to the other agencies up in L.A., and that's how they're able to form this group up there to oppose the water district here.
Well, this is likely only the beginning of things. We know there's a hearing in April about those water rates. I want to move on to our second big story this week. On Wednesday, voters got a good look at the top three candidates vying for the 52nd congressional seat during a KPBS televised debate. Congressman Brian Bilbray, Port Commissioner Scott Peters, and former Assembly member Lori Saldana took part in the debate, which featured few fireworks but addressed a wide range of issues. Now, was there a clear winner or loser? Now, Christopher, you were a journalist on the panel. You got to ask questions. You saw it firsthand. Your overall impression, first of all.
Like I said, I think that there were several winners. I think each of them made some very good points. I think Lori Saldana came out of the box very aggressive. She showed a command of the subjects that we threw out there. Scott Peters, obviously trying to appeal more to kind of the moderate voter out there, showed that he could be both business friendly as well as environmentally friendly. And I think Brian Bilbray, by stressing a couple of the congressman, by stressing a couple of the bills that he's worked on and the partnerships he's had with Bob Filner and former House Leader Nancy Pelosi, was also trying to kind of demonstrate some bipartisanship in this new redrawn district. We'll see how long his Democratic opponents allow him to continue on that kind of platform. But for now, I think each of them have something they could look back on and be happy about, and we'll see where it goes from here.
GW, were there any defining moments for you during this debate? Anything that really said, okay, that really is going to speak to that candidate? Or?
Oh, I think the social issues, Planned Parenthood is going to be a hot-buttoned topic through the campaign. Of course, jobs, but still, that I think the fact that Bilbray voted to defund it, and then he seemed to contradict himself by saying he doesn't want Washington to get involved in his children's health issues, and I'm sure they're going to pound him on that.
I think it was interesting to look. You hear that Scott Peters and Brian Bilbray say the same thing about not wanting Washington to get involved, but that could mean two different things.
Absolutely.
Saying that
Yes.
could mean both that you don't want the government involved at all, or that you want the government to pay for some of these things and then kind of step away and let women have these health care issues such as abortions and contraception, which is really what the kind of heart of the discussion was about.
And what's new this election cycle, too, we've got the top two primary happening, right? So we saw two Democrats and one Republican in this debate, right. And we could end up, couldn't we, with Democrat versus Democrat, or Democrat versus Republican. We could. So was it a struggle, do you think, or is it going to be for the two Democrats to set themselves apart from one another? Could we see a hint of that in this debate?
Oh, I think we did. Lori Saldana was extremely aggressive, seemed to be up to speed on a lot of the issues. Clearly, she was more aggressive than Peters. Whether that pays off for her remains to be seen.
Yeah.
But
she's
she
clearly targeting activists and people kind of on the left side of the Democratic Party, which is an interesting and maybe a good tactic in the end, because those are the folks that get very excited about voting in primaries. Scott Peters is kind of pursuing this game plan that we think he might use in a general election if he's to make it through the primary, which is to appeal to really a third of that district, which are folks that don't identify with either party. And he thinks that he could pick up a big chunk of that and possibly challenge Bilbray in that way.
Now, Chris, I know one of your questions was about Iran. Were there any responses to that question or to any of the other questions that surprised you, that we actually learned something new about a position?
On that one, I think, Bilbray is trying to give a consistent answer that he allows these other branches of government to essentially operate on their own without Congress intervening. So his answer was basically he would not fault the president or go after the president on invading Iran as long as the president didn't commit ground troops. And I think it's an important thing to look at, because you have a lot of Republicans, and including Brian Bilbray, on something like the health care overhaul, really talking about the president overstepping. So you have to kind of contrast, one issue with another and see if these candidates are being consistent.
We don't have a lot of time left, but JW, I want to end on this because there's a reason KPBS looked at this 52nd congressional seat. Tell us why this is one to watch right now.
Ooh, it's close because of the new district. The population split Republican-Democrat is very, very close, closer than any district congressional race in the community. It's going to be a hot one all the way to November.
Okay, well, for people at home, you can still see this debate, kpbs.org. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here.
Thanks a lot.